The Final Light at Sea. In 1998, a 42-year-old marine technician named Thomas Elwood was sent to perform maintenance at an abandoned lighthouse off the southeastern coast of England. The lighthouse, long out of operation, had been experiencing sudden power surges. Inexplicable, given its complete disconnection from the grid. Thomas arrived by supply boat on a Monday morning. The island was small, barely a rocky platform in the sea, with only the tall, weathered lighthouse standing in eerie silence. His job was supposed to last 4 days. He would eat, sleep, and work alone. The first day went by uneventfully. Thomas ran diagnostic tests and checked wiring, noting the strange fact that the lighthouse's backup generator, disconnected for over a decade, showed signs of recent use. That night, as he climbed the spiral staircase to the sleeping quarters, he heard what sounded like footsteps coming from below. Thinking it was just the old structure settling, he ignored it. On the second night, the footsteps returned, slow, steady, climbing the stairs behind him. He turned quickly with his flashlight, but no one was there. To ease his paranoia, Thomas set up a camcorder facing the stairs. The next morning, when he reviewed the footage, the tape showed nothing but silence. Yet his own notebook recorded, "Woke up at 2:33 a.m. to what sounded like someone breathing near the door." By the third night, Thomas was visibly shaken in the camera logs. His handwriting became erratic. His final journal entry read, "There's something outside the tower. Not human. Watching from the water. Its eyes reflect light. It knows I see it. It doesn't blink." That same night, a supply boat arrived a day early due to worsening weather. They found the lighthouse unlocked, Thomas's equipment scattered, and the camcorder still recording on the table. Thomas was discovered unconscious near the top floor, clutching his journal, eyes wide open, but unresponsive. He recovered physically, but according to the medical report, he suffered a complete dissociative breakdown. He never spoke again. The journal and the tapes were quietly collected by the authorities. What they couldn't explain, however, was the single set of wet footprints leading from the sea to the base of the lighthouse, stopping at the first step. No return prints were ever found. The reflection that wasn't mine. In the fall of 2011, Rachel M., a 23-year-old psychology student, moved into a quiet off-campus apartment in Eugene, Oregon. It was a small one-bedroom unit in an old Victorian-style house that had been converted into individual flats. Rachel had always been drawn to antique things, so the slightly aged charm of the building didn't bother her. The apartment came mostly unfurnished, except for one thing: a large, wall-mounted mirror in the hallway. It stretched from waist to ceiling and had an ornate, cracked wooden frame. According to the landlord, the mirror was original to the house, and previous tenants had agreed not to remove it, as it was supposedly built into the wall. Rachel didn't think much of it at first. She was more concerned with midterms than the old mirror, but that changed her very first night. As she passed by the hallway to turn off the lights, she noticed something strange. For a brief second, her reflection lagged. She turned her head, but in the mirror, her image was half a beat slower. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable. She chalked it up to exhaustion and went to bed. The next day, it happened again, and again. Every time she passed the mirror, always in her peripheral vision, the reflection seemed just a little off. Sometimes the head tilted when hers didn't. Sometimes the eyes in the mirror didn't blink when she did. On the third night, as she brushed her teeth in front of it, she froze. For a single moment, her reflection smiled, a slow, wide grin. But Rachel's own face had stayed still. Then, just like that, the reflection synced back to her real movements. She dropped her toothbrush and backed away, heart racing. Determined to prove she wasn't imagining things, Rachel set up her laptop webcam across from the mirror before going to bed. It recorded all night. The next morning, she hesitated before hitting play. The footage showed hours of silence, until 3:16 a.m. That's when it happened. The reflection in the mirror, which should have been dark and empty, turned its head slowly. It stared directly into the camera, eyes open, unblinking, expressionless. There was no one in front of it. Rachel was clearly seen in the background, asleep in her bed. The reflection was alone. Terrified, she shut the laptop and left the apartment immediately. She called her landlord in tears, begging for an explanation. He was silent at first, but then admitted that the previous tenant, a woman in her 40s, had covered the mirror with a heavy black cloth for almost the entire duration of her stay. She said it made her feel watched, the landlord said. Sick, like something in it didn't want to be forgotten. Rachel didn't even return to pack everything. She moved in with a friend for the remainder of the semester. A few weeks later, a contractor was called in to remove the mirror. According to workers on site, when they tried to unmount it, the frame made a strange, creaking sound, and something thick and reddish oozed from a crack behind the wood. No one could explain it. The landlord dismissed the claims as exaggeration, said it was likely paint or rust. But the mirror was finally taken out, and no one has spoken of it since. Rachel, now in her 30s, refuses to be around mirrors of any kind. She covers bathroom mirrors, avoids store reflections, and even disabled the front camera on her phone. It wasn't just the reflection that scared me, she said in a forum years later. It was the fact that whatever it was, it looked like it knew me. Whispers in the Woods. In the summer of 2005, Daniel R., a 28-year-old experienced outdoorsman and amateur photographer, decided to go on a solo hiking trip deep into the forests of British Columbia, Canada. He had done dozens of hikes before, some in much rougher terrain, but this trip was different. Daniel had found an old, barely marked trail on a wilderness map posted to a forum. The area was remote, unfrequented, and not listed in any official hiking registry. That only made it more appealing to him. He packed light: tent, food for 3 days, flashlight, journal, GPS, a camera, and a hatchet. Day 1, Daniel began his hike at sunrise. The first part of the trail was lush and quiet, filled with birdsong and the crunch of leaves beneath his boots. He set up camp near a small stream and documented his surroundings in his journal, noting the clear water, lack of other hikers, and perfect silence. But that night, he wrote something strange. No wind, no bucks, no birds, just stillness. Like everything here is holding its breath. Day 2. By midday, Daniel had gone deeper into the forest than he originally planned. The trees grew thicker, taller. Sunlight barely reached the forest floor. His GPS began glitching, showing sudden jumps in location, as if he'd walked miles in seconds. Still, he pressed on. That evening, just after setting up his tent, he began hearing soft whispers in the woods. They came in waves, faint, almost rhythmic, like breathing. He assumed it was wind passing through the trees. But there was no wind. Later that night, the whispers returned, closer this time, just outside his tent. The voices were unintelligible, low, and layered. They didn't sound angry, just wrong. He held his breath and waited, clutching the handle of his hatchet. The whispers stopped after about 15 minutes. 3 Uhr 3 nachts. Daniel was woken by the sound of footsteps circling his tent. Slow, deliberate. The crunching of leaves moved around and around, sometimes stopping, then starting again. Then he heard breathing, heavy human breathing just outside the nylon wall. He froze. Then, ever so carefully, he unzipped the tent just a few inches and peered outside with his flashlight. That's when he saw it, a crouched figure between the trees. Naked, pale. Its arms were long, longer than normal. Its head hung low, but its eyes were locked directly on Daniel. The figure didn't flinch. It didn't move. Daniel stayed frozen for nearly 30 minutes, flashlight trembling in his hand. Finally, the figure slowly backed away, without standing up, and vanished into the brush without making a sound. Day 3, escape. At first light, Daniel packed up his gear and left everything behind except for his GPS and camera. He ran for nearly 3 miles before stopping to check his location. His GPS had completely reset, showing him still at his original starting point, despite having hiked 2 days into the wilderness. He didn't stop running until he reached his car. Aftermath. Daniel shared the story years later on a hiking forum under the username @TrailRunner77, along with a scan of one journal page and a blurry photo of what looked like a pale shape between trees. Many dismissed it as fiction, an attempt at a creepypasta. But Daniel never returned to the woods again. He claims that sometimes, when he's home alone at night, he still hears those whispers. They don't say anything. They just wait.